Welcome to the most exciting coin discovery of your life. Today, we're diving into the mysterious and ultra-rare bicentennial coins, an ordinary-looking coin with the power to make you a millionaire overnight. If you've got this hidden gem in your pocket, your entire future could change in an instant. Let's unlock the secrets behind this legendary piece of treasure. First up, the story of the 1941 United States 5-cent coin, more widely known as the Buffalo nickel or Indian head nickel, begins at a moment when America stood on the edge of profound transformation. In 1941, the United States had not yet officially entered World War II, but tensions were rising globally, and the nation's industries were quietly preparing for what would soon become a full-scale wartime economy. Against this backdrop, everyday objects like coins continued to circulate through the hands of millions, largely unnoticed. Yet among these humble nickels, certain rare survivors would one day emerge as prized collectibles, commanding astonishing attention from numismatists and collectors around the world. The Buffalo Nickel series, designed by the renowned sculptor James Earl Fraser, had already become one of the most iconic coin designs in American history by the time 1941 issues were struck. First introduced in 1913, the series celebrated Native American heritage and the rugged spirit of the American frontier. Fraser's design was deeply symbolic, combining portraits of Native American leaders into a single composite figure on the obverse, while the reverse featured a powerful American bison, often referred to as Black Diamond, standing firmly on a mound. By 1941, however, the series was nearing its end, with the Jefferson nickel set to replace it in 1938. That means the 1941 Buffalo nickel is actually a misconception often made by collectors, because officially, Buffalo nickels were no longer minted by that year. This confusion alone adds intrigue and highlights how misinformation or misidentification can sometimes spark collector interest. For those coins that are mistakenly identified as 1941 Buffalo nickels, what often exists instead are 1941 Jefferson nickels, coins that marked a transition into a more modern design era. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his Monticello estate on the reverse. While not as artistically romantic as the Buffalo design, the Jefferson nickel became a staple of American coinage. The 1941 issue itself was produced in large quantities across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, with mintage numbers reaching into the tens of millions. At first glance, such high production would suggest that these coins are common and of little value, but the reality is far more complex. Mintage numbers alone never determine true rarity. What truly matters is how many coins survived over time, and in what condition. During the early 1940s, nickels were heavily used in everyday commerce, meaning most examples quickly became worn, scratched, and circulated extensively. High-grade survivors, those that escaped heavy use, are significantly rarer. Add to this the challenges of strike quality, especially for coins produced during a time when mint facilities were under pressure, and suddenly the pool of truly collectible examples becomes much smaller. When examining a 1941 nickel, collectors pay close attention to strike sharpness, particularly in areas like Jefferson's hair details and the steps of Monticello. Weak strikes were common, and coins with fully struck steps, known as full steps examples, are especially desirable. These coins represent the highest level of minting precision and are often the centerpiece of competitive collections. Even a coin that appears ordinary at first glance can become extraordinary if it exhibits this rare level of detail. Varieties and minting errors add another layer of fascination. In 1941 nickels, collectors search for doubled dies, where the design appears slightly duplicated due to misalignment during the hubbing process. There are also repunched mint marks, a result of the manual process used at the time to apply mint marks to dies. These subtle variations can dramatically increase a coin's desirability, especially when clearly visible without magnification. Off-center strikes, die cracks, and other anomalies further illustrate the imperfect nature of the minting process, transforming ordinary coins into unique artifacts of production history. Understanding how these errors occur reveals the artistry and vulnerability of coin production. Dies were created by impressing a design hub into blank steel multiple times, and any misalignment during this process could result in doubling. Mint marks were punched by hand, leading to inconsistencies and occasional overlaps. As wartime pressures mounted, the increased demand for coinage sometimes led to overworked dies, contributing to cracks, weak strikes, and other irregularities. Each flaw tells a story of the conditions under which the coin was made. Condition plays a crucial role in determining value. A scratched and toned 1941 nickel, like the one in question, may initially seem less desirable. However, natural toning, developed over decades through exposure to air and storage conditions, can actually enhance a coin's appeal if it remains original and uncleaned. Cleaning, on the other hand, often reduces value significantly by stripping away the coin's natural surface. Professional grading services evaluate these factors carefully, assigning grades that influence how collectors perceive and value each piece. In today's market, a typical circulated 1941 nickel in fine condition might be worth only a small premium over face value, while very fine and about uncirculated examples can command modest increases. However, uncirculated coins with strong strikes and minimal marks, especially those with full steps designation, can reach into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. Rare varieties or error coins can exceed these ranges significantly, particularly when certified by reputable grading services and offered in competitive auction environments. At the highest level, registry-set competition drives elite prices. Collectors striving to assemble the finest possible sets compete for top-graded coins, often pushing prices far beyond typical market expectations. A 1941 nickel that ranks among the finest known examples, with exceptional strike, luster, and preservation, can achieve remarkable auction results. These coins are not just currency, they are trophies, representing the pinnacle of numismatic achievement. In the end, the story of a 1941 5-cent coin is a reminder that value is never just about age or denomination. It is about rarity, condition, history, and the subtle details that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Even a small nickel, worn and toned from decades of circulation, can hold secrets that connect it to a specific moment in time, and, under the right circumstances, transform it into a highly sought-after collectible. Beyond the technical aspects of grading and rarity, there is also a powerful human element that drives the fascination with coins like the 1941 5-cent piece. Each example that survives today has passed through countless hands, used in everyday transactions during a time when the world was on the brink of global conflict. These coins may have been carried by workers, soldiers, or families facing uncertain futures, quietly witnessing history unfold. This invisible journey adds an emotional layer that cannot be quantified by grading scales or price guides, yet it often plays a role in how collectors connect with a specific piece. A scratched and toned coin, rather than being dismissed, can sometimes feel more authentic. It's where acting as a record of real-world use and passage through time. Ultimately, what makes a 1941 nickel extraordinary is not just its potential value, but the combination of factors that elevate it above millions of others. A well-preserved example with sharp detail, original surfaces, and perhaps a rare variety or striking error becomes far more than a simple coin. It becomes a story captured in metal. For collectors, the pursuit is not merely about finding something expensive, but about discovering something rare, genuine, and historically meaningful. And while most 1941 nickels will remain modest in value, a select few, those with exceptional qualities, continue to prove that even the smallest denominations can hold remarkable significance in the world of numismatics. Second, the year 1946 marked a powerful turning point in American history. The Second World War had just ended, and the United States was transitioning from a wartime economy to a period of rebuilding and optimism. Factories that once produced military equipment were shifting back to consumer goods, and millions of soldiers were returning home, reshaping society in profound ways. In this atmosphere of renewal, everyday objects like coins quietly carried the legacy of both hardship and hope. Among them, the 5-cent coin of 1946 stands as a subtle but fascinating artifact, one that, under the right circumstances, can become far more valuable than its humble face value suggests. When collectors refer to a Native American 5-cent coin, they are often thinking of the iconic Buffalo nickel, designed by the celebrated sculptor James Earl Fraser. However, by 1946, that series had already ended, replaced in 1938 by the Jefferson nickel designed by Felix Schlag. This creates an intriguing overlap in collector language, where the artistic legacy of the Buffalo nickel still influences how people perceive later coins. The 1946 Jefferson nickel may lack the frontier imagery of its predecessor, but it carries its own historical weight as part of the post-war coinage era, making it a compelling subject for collectors seeking hidden value. The design of the 1946 nickel is both refined and symbolic. On the obverse, a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson reflects the nation's respect for its founding ideals, while the reverse features his Monticello estate, an architectural symbol of intellect, independence, and vision. Though seemingly straightforward, this design presents unique challenges in production. The fine details of Monticello, particularly the steps leading up to the building, became one of the most critical factors in determining a coin's quality. Coins with sharply defined full steps are rare and highly prized, as they indicate an exceptional strike during the minting process. In terms of mintage, the 1946 nickel was produced in large numbers across multiple mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. At first glance, these high production figures might suggest that the coin is common and of limited value. However, experienced collectors understand that mintage alone does not define rarity. What truly matters is how many coins have survived over time in collectible condition. Decades of circulation, handling, and environmental exposure have significantly reduced the number of high-quality examples, especially those that retain their original surfaces. Survival rate plays a crucial role in shaping the coin's market value. Most 1946 nickels were heavily circulated, resulting in worn details, scratches, and dull surfaces. Finding a coin with strong luster, minimal contact marks, and a sharp strike is increasingly difficult. This is where collector demand intensifies, particularly for coins that meet strict grading standards. A scratched and toned example, like the one described, may still hold interest, especially if the toning is natural and visually appealing, but its value will depend heavily on originality and the absence of cleaning. Varieties and minting errors add another layer of intrigue to the 1946 nickel. Collectors actively search for doubled dies, where the design appears duplicated due to slight misalignment during the die creation process. Re-punched mint marks, caused by the manual punching of mint marks into dies, can also create subtle but valuable variations. Other errors such as die cracks, off-center strikes, and planchette flaws reveal the imperfections of the minting process. These anomalies transform ordinary coins into unique pieces, often commanding premiums when clearly visible and authenticated. The process behind these errors is both technical and fascinating. During die creation, a master hub impresses the design onto a die multiple times. Any misalignment can result in hub doubling, which becomes permanently embedded in every coin struck from that die. Mint marks, added by hand during this era, could be punched more than once, leading to overlapping impressions. Additionally, the stress placed on minting equipment during and after the war sometimes led to die fatigue, producing cracks and weak strikes. Each era tells a story of the conditions under which the coin was made, adding depth to its historical significance. Condition and surface preservation are perhaps the most critical factors in determining value. Natural toning, which develops over time due to chemical reactions with the environment, can enhance a coin's visual appeal if it remains undisturbed. In contrast, cleaning a coin often strips away this originality, leaving behind unnatural surfaces that reduce its desirability. Professional grading services evaluate these aspects carefully, assigning grades that influence market perception. A scratched coin may still hold value if its surfaces are original, but heavy damage or cleaning can significantly limit its appeal. In today's market, a 1946 nickel in fine condition may carry only a modest premium, while very fine and about uncirculated examples can see gradual increases in value. Uncirculated coins with strong strikes, particularly those with full steps, can reach into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their grade and certification. Exceptional examples, those considered among the finest known, have achieved impressive auction results, driven by rarity, visual quality, and intense competition among collectors building top-tier registry sets. At the highest levels of collecting, registry set competition plays a decisive role in driving prices. Collectors compete to assemble the finest possible sets of coins, often seeking the highest graded examples available. This competition can push prices far beyond typical market ranges, especially for coins that are both rare and visually exceptional. A 1946 nickel that combines strong strike, pristine surfaces, and a recognized variety can become a centerpiece of such collections, achieving recognition far beyond its original purpose as everyday currency. In the end, the 1946 5-cent coin serves as a reminder that extraordinary value can emerge from the most ordinary beginnings. While millions were produced and most remain modest in worth, a select few stand apart due to their rarity, condition, and unique characteristics. Whether it is a sharply struck full steps example, a rare error variety, or a beautifully toned survivor, these coins demonstrate how history, craftsmanship, and chance can converge to create something truly remarkable. Even a small nickel, worn and scratched from decades of use, can hold the potential to become a highly valued piece of American numismatic history. Another dimension that elevates certain 1946 nickels into the spotlight is provenance, the documented history of a coin's ownership. When a coin can be traced back to a collection or has appeared in notable auctions, it gains an added layer of credibility and desirability. Collectors are often willing to pay a premium for coins with a known past, especially if they were once part of a high-ranking registry set or handled by respected numismatists. This historical chain of ownership transforms the coin from a simple object into a recognized piece of numismatic heritage, reinforcing its importance in the broader collecting community. Ultimately, the enduring fascination with the 1946 5-cent coin lies in its ability to bridge the gap between everyday life and extraordinary discovery. While most examples remain common, the rare few that exhibit exceptional quality, striking detail, or unusual errors continue to captivate collectors and historians alike. These coins prove that value is not defined by denomination, but by a combination of rarity, preservation, and story. In the world of coin collecting, even a modest nickel, scratched, toned, and seemingly ordinary, can, under the right circumstances, rise to become a truly remarkable and sought-after treasure. Third, the story of a 1990 United States 5-cent coin begins in a very different America than the wartime years of earlier nickels. By 1990, the country was experiencing economic growth, technological advancement, and the final phase of the Cold War era. The Berlin Wall had recently fallen, and the United States was stepping into a new global role. Yet, even in this modern age, billions of coins continued to flow through everyday commerce, largely unnoticed. Among them were the 1990 nickels, ordinary in appearance, but capable of becoming extraordinary under the right conditions, especially when rarity, error, and preservation intersect. Although many people still associate Native American imagery with older 5-cent coins, by 1990 the United States had long transitioned to the Jefferson nickel series. Designed by Felix Schlag and introduced in 1938, this series replaced the iconic Buffalo nickel created by James Earl Fraser. While the Buffalo design honored Native American heritage with powerful symbolism, the Jefferson nickel carried forward a different legacy, one rooted in the nation's founding ideals. This lingering association between the two designs often leads collectors to explore modern nickels with the same curiosity once reserved for earlier, more artistic coinage. The design of the 1990 nickel is both familiar and deceptively complex. On the obverse, Thomas Jefferson's portrait faces left, capturing a sense of calm authority, while the reverse features his Monticello estate, rendered with architectural precision. One of the most critical details lies in the steps of Monticello. These steps, often weakly struck, have become a defining feature for collectors. Coins that display all steps clearly, known as full steps examples, are significantly rarer and command strong premiums, transforming an otherwise common coin into a highly desirable collectible. In terms of mintage, the 1990 nickel was produced in massive quantities at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with hundreds of millions of coins entering circulation. At face value, such high production suggests little scarcity. However, mintage numbers alone do not determine rarity. What matters is how many coins survive in exceptional condition. The vast majority of 1990 nickels were used in daily transactions, accumulating scratches, wear, and damage. High-grade examples, particularly those with full steps and minimal contact marks, represent only a tiny fraction of the original production. Survival rate and strike quality play a crucial role in shaping collector demand. Coins from 1990 are known for inconsistent strikes, especially on the reverse. Weakly struck steps are common, making sharply detailed examples difficult to find. Over time, this has created a strong demand for well-preserved coins, particularly those graded at the highest levels by professional services. A scratched and toned example, while not ideal, can still hold value if it retains originality and has not been improperly cleaned. Natural toning, when attractive, can even enhance a coin's appeal. Varieties and mint errors are where the 1990 nickel truly begins to reveal its hidden potential. Collectors actively search for doubled dies, where the design appears duplicated due to slight misalignment during die creation. Other notable varieties include die cracks, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets. While repunched mint marks were more common in earlier decades, modern minting processes reduced their frequency, making any confirmed examples particularly intriguing. These errors are not just flaws, they are unique signatures of the minting process, often elevating a coin's value significantly. The creation of these errors is rooted in the mechanics of coin production. During die preparation, a master hub impresses the design onto a working die. Any misalignment during this process can result in hub doubling, which is then transferred onto every coin struck from that die. High-speed minting presses, combined with the pressure to produce large quantities, can also lead to off-center strikes or die fatigue, causing cracks and other irregularities. Even in a modern era like 1990, these imperfections remind us that coin production is not entirely immune to error. Condition remains one of the most important factors in determining value. A scratched coin may fall into lower grade categories such as fine or very fine, where values typically remain modest. However, coins in about uncirculated condition begin to show stronger market interest, and mint state examples, especially those graded MS65 and above with full steps, can command significantly higher prices. In some cases, top-graded coins with exceptional eye appeal have achieved impressive auction results, particularly when they are among the finest known examples. Auction records for 1990 nickels highlight the impact of rarity within condition. While most circulated coins trade for small premiums, high-grade full steps examples certified by leading grading services have reached into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. These prices are driven not just by rarity, but by competition among collectors striving to complete registry sets. In this environment, even a single point difference in grade can dramatically influence value, pushing elite coins into a completely different price category. Registry set competition has become one of the most powerful forces in modern coin collecting. Collectors compete to assemble the highest graded sets, often seeking the finest known examples of each date and mint. This competition creates intense demand for coins that meet strict criteria, particularly those with full steps and flawless surfaces. A 1990 nickel that meets these standards can become a centerpiece of such collections, achieving recognition far beyond its original purpose as everyday currency. In the end, the 1995-cent coin serves as a powerful reminder that extraordinary value can emerge from the most ordinary beginnings. While millions were produced and most remain common, a select few stand apart due to their condition, rarity, and unique characteristics. Whether it is a sharply struck full steps example, a rare mint error, or a beautifully toned survivor, these coins demonstrate how history, precision, and chance can combine to create something truly remarkable. Even a small nickel, often overlooked and undervalued, can, under the right circumstances, become a prized collectible with a story worth telling. Another fascinating dimension of the 1990 nickel lies in how modern collectors have redefined what rarity truly means. In earlier decades, rarity was often tied to low mintage or age, but for coins like this, rarity is increasingly about condition scarcity. Millions may still exist, but very few survive in pristine, untouched states with flawless surfaces and perfect strikes. This shift has created a new kind of treasure hunt, where collectors carefully examine even heavily circulated coins, searching for overlooked varieties or subtle errors that others may have missed. In some cases, coins pulled straight from circulation have later been authenticated as rare varieties, proving that extraordinary discoveries can still happen in the most unexpected places. Ultimately, the 1995-cent coin stands as a testament to the evolving nature of numismatics. It challenges the idea that only old or visibly rare coins are valuable, showing instead that modern issues can hold hidden potential when examined closely. A scratched and toned example may seem ordinary at first glance, but its true significance depends on factors like originality, strike quality, and the possibility of rare die characteristics. For collectors, the excitement lies not just in owning a valuable coin, but in uncovering its story, because sometimes, even a coin from a recent era can carry the same mystery, rarity, and allure as those from centuries past. Fourth, the story of the 1980 United States 5-cent coin begins in a decade defined by economic uncertainty and cultural change. America in 1980 was facing high inflation, rising unemployment, and the lingering effects of the energy crisis. Yet despite these challenges, everyday commerce continued uninterrupted, and coins like the nickel passed quietly from hand to hand across the nation. Few people at the time could have imagined that some of these ordinary coins, struck in massive quantities, would one day become objects of intense scrutiny and surprising value among collectors. By 1980, the 5-cent coin was firmly part of the Jefferson nickel series, a design introduced in 1938 by Felix Schlag. This series had long replaced the earlier Buffalo nickel, originally designed by James Earl Fraser, which famously depicted Native American imagery and the American bison. While the 1980D nickel no longer featured Native American symbolism, the legacy of that earlier design still influences how collectors emotionally connect to U.S. coinage. The Jefferson nickel represents continuity, a steady presence in American pockets during decades of change, and a canvas where rarity can still quietly emerge. The design itself appears simple but holds important details that determine value. On the obverse, Thomas Jefferson's profile faces left, while the reverse showcases his Monticello estate. What separates an ordinary coin from a valuable one often comes down to the sharpness of this reverse design. The steps leading up to Monticello are particularly important. Coins that display all steps clearly, known as full steps examples, are rare, especially from the Denver Mint in 1980, where strike quality was often inconsistent. This single detail can elevate a coin from common to highly collectible. The 1980D nickel had a substantial mintage, with hundreds of millions produced at the Denver Mint. On paper, this suggests abundance and low value. However, experienced collectors understand that mintage numbers alone do not define rarity. The real question is how many coins survived in high-grade condition. Most 1980D nickels entered circulation immediately, accumulating scratches, wear, and environmental damage. As a result, finding a well-preserved example today, especially one with strong strike and minimal marks, is far more difficult than the mintage figures might suggest. Survival rate and collector demand intersect in powerful ways when it comes to this coin. While millions still exist, only a small percentage meet the strict criteria for high-grade certification. Coins with clean surfaces, strong luster, and sharply defined details are actively sought after, particularly by collectors building competitive sets. A scratched and toned coin, like the one described, may fall into lower-grade categories, but it still holds interest if the toning is natural and the surfaces remain original. Even in circulated condition, certain coins can surprise collectors if they display unusual characteristics or hidden varieties. Varieties and mint errors are where the 1980D nickel begins to reveal its hidden potential. Collectors search for doubled dies, where elements of the design appear duplicated due to slight misalignment during die creation. Other notable errors include die cracks, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets. While repunched mint marks became less common by this era due to improved minting technology, minor variations still exist and can attract attention. These imperfections are not flaws in the traditional sense, they are unique markers that distinguish one coin from millions of others. Understanding how these errors occur adds depth to their appeal. During the die-making process, a master hub impresses the design onto a working die multiple times. Any misalignment during this process can create doubling, which is then transferred onto every coin struck from that die. High-speed production at the mint can also lead to mechanical issues, resulting in off-center strikes or die fatigue. Even in a relatively modern year like 1980, these processes were not entirely flawless, allowing rare and valuable anomalies to enter circulation. Condition and surface preservation remain critical factors in determining value. Natural toning, which develops over time through exposure to air and storage conditions, can enhance a coin's appearance if it remains untouched. Cleaning, however, often damages the surface and reduces desirability. Professional grading services evaluate these aspects carefully, assigning grades that heavily influence market value. A scratched coin may be limited in its potential, but if it retains originality and has not been cleaned, it can still hold collector interest. In terms of market value, most 1980D nickels in circulated condition, such as fine or very fine, carry only modest premiums. About uncirculated examples begin to show stronger demand, while mint state coins, particularly those graded MS65 and above, can command significantly higher prices. The real standouts are full steps examples in top grades, which are far scarcer and have achieved notable auction results. In some cases, these coins have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, driven by their rarity within condition and strong collector demand. At the highest levels of the hobby, registry set competition plays a major role in pushing prices upward. Collectors compete to assemble the finest possible sets, often seeking the highest graded examples available. This competition creates intense demand for coins that meet strict criteria, particularly those with full steps and exceptional surfaces. A 1980D nickel that ranks among the finest known can become a centerpiece of such collections, achieving recognition and value far beyond its original purpose. In the end, the 1980D 5-cent coin is a powerful reminder that extraordinary value can exist within the most ordinary objects. While millions were produced and most remain common, a select few stand apart due to their condition, rarity, and unique characteristics. Whether it is a sharply struck full steps example, a rare mint error, or a beautifully toned survivor, these coins demonstrate how precision, history, and chance can combine to create something truly remarkable. Even a small nickel, often overlooked in everyday life, can, under the right circumstances, become a prized collectible with a story worth telling. Another layer of intrigue surrounding the 1980D nickel comes from how overlooked coins can suddenly gain attention decades later. For many years, collectors largely focused on older or silver-based coins, leaving modern nickels relatively ignored. However, as grading standards tightened and registry set competition intensified, even dates like 1980D began to reveal their hidden scarcity in top condition. Coins that were once dismissed as common suddenly became important when collectors realized how few truly pristine examples existed. This shift in perspective has turned everyday pocket change into a field of discovery, where even a scratched and toned coin might deserve a closer look before being set aside. Ultimately, the true fascination of the 1980D 5-cent coin lies in its transformation from ordinary currency into a potential collectible treasure. It represents a moment in time when millions of identical pieces were created, yet only a handful would survive with the qualities needed to stand out. Whether through an unusual error, exceptional strike, or remarkable preservation, these coins remind collectors that rarity is often hidden in plain sight. In the world of numismatics, value is not always obvious at first glance, and sometimes, the most unassuming nickel can carry a story, a history, and a level of importance far beyond what anyone might expect.